Come on and shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. Join award-winning host Dale Davidson as he interviews the most remarkable people you'll find in the entertainment capital of the world. You'll meet entertainers, sports figures, newsmakers, community and business leaders, and people just like you with stories that'll touch your heart. Now, here's Dale Davidson.
Hello, I'm Dale Davidson, and welcome to this edition of Las Vegas Tonight. Each and every time we get together, we try to bring you interesting, fascinating, and hard-working people. And we've outdone ourselves this time. We have Pastor Ron Fairbairn, who is the pastor of Central Valley Baptist Church in Pahrump, Nevada. Pastor, thanks for joining us.
Dale, it's a pleasure, but I'd like to be here when you have somebody interesting.
We're putting you on the spot. It'll have to be you. But we're friends, as you can probably tell.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, he is the lesser half of the Ron and Judy show.
Oh,
we
yes.
love your wife, Judy. She's a sweetheart. How long you guys been married now?
Oh, just a little over 5 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
She kept me again.
Yeah, she stepped right into your life and did nothing but good stuff for you.
Oh, yeah, I know. She, I interviewed her for a job, and when I was walking out of my truck, she was hired on at the Christian bookstore.
Oh, okay.
And when I got out of my truck, she'd been married for 35 years, and her husband had passed away.
Oh, okay.
And she said she wasn't looking for another man, but when I walked out of my truck and was walking into the Christian bookstore, she said she heard God say audibly, "That's your next husband."
Is that right? Wow.
She did. She'll tell you.
Wow. Oh, that's I'd never heard that story. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So now you had gone back east, hadn't you, to Virginia to your daughters, and you were thinking about moving there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then the aches and pains of humidity, as I recall, were such that you really couldn't stay, so you moved to Pahrump. Huh?
Oh, no, I was called to Pahrump.
There you go.
My brother had a business up there.
Oh, is that right?
In fact, he's the only Southern Nevada mobile home dealer left in Southern Nevada.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they call it Dream Homes.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really proud of him because, we also wouldn't be where we were today if it wasn't for people that step up and do the work of God, even though sometimes they don't know they're doing it.
And help, yeah.
Yes.
Because after all, that is what we're supposed to do, isn't it, in our Christian life? Now, prior to that, you grew up in Las Vegas?
Well, I was born in St. Paul, Nebraska.
Oh, okay. Whereabouts is that?
And that's just 25 miles south of, or north of Grand Island.
Oh, I know where that is. Yeah. I was stuck there once with a broken down Volkswagen.
Oh, yeah. Not much then there.
No, and there wasn't, and this was in the 60s, and they practically wanted to walk to the wrong side of the car and look at the engine. So there weren't that many rear engine cars in those days. But anyway, I spent an entire day there, which was nothing but fun. So where did you go from there?
Well, in 1965, my dad had kind of enough of Nebraska and with the cold,
right?
And so he just said one day, "Well, we're gonna head west, young man."
Okay.
And so my other brother and I and my dad, we got in his international truck.
Yeah.
And we just headed this way. And the reason I liked it because I had met the farmer's daughter. In just out of St. Paul, Nebraska,
right.
in a little Kegel's Corner. Her grandparents owned the little corner store.
Is that right?
Just down from my grandparents' farm. So when I came out here, I actually wrote her. When I was in Las Vegas, within a week, I wrote her and told her that I was going to come out and see her. And I got a letter from her husband.
Oh, is that right? Oops.
Yeah, so I know that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's funny.
And we never left Las Vegas.
Yeah, so you stayed in Las Vegas and went to high school here. And
Rancho High School.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yep. And then when did you join the service?
Actually, I stayed here until 1967 when my dad he wanted to go up to Carson City. So at the beginning of 1967, right around there, we went up there, and It was, what a beautiful little town.
It is. I like Carson City, yeah.
And so I stayed there and went to high school until December 5th of 1967. And John Wayne was always my hero.
Sure.
And I knew I always wanted to go in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And so, it's just as life happens. I happened to hitchhike all the way from Carson City, Virginia City. Actually, I was in Virginia City.
Wow.
And
hometown of Mark Twain, or at least he lived there for a while.
Yeah, he did. And so I was actually staying with a group of gentlemen in a motorcycle gang.
Wow.
Dale, I know there's some interesting things.
Wow, there's a story there, I'll bet.
Yeah. And it is, but I just decided, you know what, I needed to do something. So I hitchhiked all the way and to Las Vegas, went and signed up, and on December 5th, I gave my oath to become a servant of the United States of America.
As a United States Marine.
Yes, sir.
Now, was that the year you went to Vietnam?
No, it was 68.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to Vietnam in 1968, July 1968, and come back, I think it was August of 1969. And, everything is just, you know what a still shot is. And that's kind of the way it was. You have still shots of the different things that happened to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I'm glad I did. Nobody can ever take that away. What the men did during that time to serve their country.
Now that was the height of the war. That was the year of the Tet Offensive.
Yes, sir.
And it was serious fighting going on. Where were you stationed?
Well, actually, I was with Mike Company 3-1, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, and as soon as we got in country, and that was we had Ian coming on our plane coming into Da Nang at Tan Son Nhut Airport, and going out.
We had shooting never stopped.
Yeah, shooting never stopped. And actually, we got on ship, and they took us up to Quezon. That's one of the things that you'd never forget. And we didn't stay. We only got to stay for like 24 hours. But you just never forget the body bags that they loaded, just body bag after body bag.
Now, the Marines, they always send out into the field. I mean, it's the toughest job you can have. I know you and I have talked some about that, the firefight where your buddies were killed. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, it's just a very good friend of mine, and that's how it happens, is that we were walking on patrol, and he stepped on a landmine. And then as soon as everybody, everybody's in a kind of a panic right at that moment.
Sure.
And the first call that always comes out, I was an M60 machine gunner, and I was one of the lucky ones. I was a squad leader and the machine gunner because I wouldn't give it up.
Wow.
And so the first thing you hear is guns up.
Yeah.
And so it's like the things that happen, you don't plan on anything like that happening. And so one of my friends, and in fact, the day that my daughter was born at Balboa Naval Hospital in 1971, I ran into him coming out of the hospital. And
the fellow had stepped on the mine.
Yeah. Whitey, and I'll never forget, Whitey Bainbridge was his name. Mm-hmm. And he actually died probably about 15, 20 years ago from being an alcoholic.
Yeah. That happened to a lot of your buddies?
Yes.
Yeah. Just the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD as they call it, is a real thing, isn't it?
It is as real as you can keep reimagining what happened.
Yeah. Did you have nightmares for a long time?
It's one of the things that probably one of the worst things that I saw when I was over there is we watched two CH-46 helicopters collide in midair.
Wow.
Dale, you'd never forget that.
Yeah.
You never, ever forget it.
Wow.
You hear a helicopter, and you hear it again.
Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you're enjoying Las Vegas tonight. The guests we've had on the program are wonderful examples of Christians who take seriously Christ's command to love one another. In addition to the hundreds of television stations across the United States now carrying our show, we have been presented with the outstanding opportunity to bring these inspiring stories to people around the world. An international satellite network in the Russian and Ukrainian languages has asked us to provide them with episodes to be broadcast to millions. To make a gift to support this very special effort, please send your check or money order to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To use your credit or debit card, call 702-480-3989. Thank you, and God bless you.
Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
You're decorated. Tell me what the occasion was to be. First of all, what's the decoration?
It was a Naval Achievement Medal with Combat V, and I didn't even know anything about it. And I received it after I got back. When I came back from Vietnam, I got to go in the military police, and they put me back in San Diego. That's where I started. I was a Hollywood Marine.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, and you know, I love that area there, San Diego. You couldn't have asked for a better place to. If you had to go in and be in the service, that was, and we were right next to the Navy, you know.
Oh, sure, sure.
Yeah, and so I got called in by the commandant there at San Diego, and he said they wanted to make a presentation. So that was just, you know what, everybody that signs on that line, they receive that commendation for serving their country.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful that you did it, and that you got through it. You know, God bless you for your service, and thank the Lord for making it back, because you've had a full life since.
Oh yes, and we're just getting started. You know.
Now, when did you feel the calling to become a pastor?
You know, I just tell you how God follows up with when I found a letter when my grandmother passed away. My grandmother in Central City, Nebraska,
right.
St. Paul, Nebraska. She was one that kept her every letter that her family sent her, she kept. And so when she passed away, the family said, because I always liked reading and writing and keep track of all the people. I got to keep all the letters from all the families.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was able to go and read a letter in 1956 from my mother as she wrote to my grandmother and said, Ronnie come home from church and said he's going to be a preacher someday.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I didn't read that till after I got to reading the letters from my mom.
Oh, that's fantastic. So did you always kind of have it on your heart or in the back of your mind that you might do it, or had you given up on that thought?
No, you know, put it this way, I always prayed. From any time that I can remember, I always prayed. And actually, this was funny, kind of funny the way that the good Lord that He writes out your life for you. And when I was in Vietnam, we were in a firefight. And the enemy, we were just waiting for them to come back, and we had our poncho, right. You know, and you always covered yourself up. And every person with a weapon always carried a black magic marker with him. Because when you went through the brush, you would always scratch your barrels, so you would always have to have a magic marker. And I had a little Bible that the Marine Corps gave you. Mm-hmm. And it said December 5th, 1967, but in the back of it is where I signed that Jesus was my Lord and Savior that night. And then I was, when I got back to San Diego, I had a good friend of mine in Gardena, California, so I got baptized at Gardena Baptist Church.
Wow, yeah. Gardena, California. Mm-hmm. I know where that is. Yeah. And so you came to Christ. You were a young Marine at the time. Yeah. And tell me about your walk since that time. I know you've done a lot of different things, mm-hmm. but tell me about your faith during the tough times.
Well, you know, I just knew that God had a plan. I've always known that God has. You don't feel like you're fulfilled until you're doing what you know that you're called to do.
Right.
And I didn't know that until 1994. I knew that God wanted me to do something, and God put the people in my life that they kind of pulled out of me what I was supposed to do.
Really?
And one of the people that was key to that, and my mom went to College Park Baptist Church, and that was right next to Rancho High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so she had mentioned, that that's where she was going and everything. And so one day I got a call from a very good friend of mine, and he was a forklift driver at Houston Lumber.
Oh, okay.
Houston Lumber.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and that was on Commerce. In fact, that was right next to Jake Toko's gym, right there on Charleston.
Sure,
so
sure.
I always knew that. We'll get into that part later.
Yeah.
But I got a call, and many people remember, well, it's still there, White Cross Drugs.
Sure.
They called Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah.
Well, the lady that was a pharmacist there, she had to go to the hospital. And I got a call to go and pray with her. And then my friend who worked at Houston Lumber was the forklift driver there, and his name was Bruce Perry. Mm-hmm. And his wife had walked across the street on Lamb Boulevard and had got hit and run.
Oh, Lord.
And he asked me if I would go pray for his wife. And, that was an emergency call. I didn't even have a Bible or anything with me. In fact, you know what a Franklin Daily Planner is?
Oh, yeah, sure,
yeah.
sure.
And so I had one of them. And so I went into Sunrise Hospital, and the nurses said, she's not going to make it. You can go in there, and because the husband already called. And so I went in there. I got on my knees, Dale, and I prayed for her. And then when I was going downstairs, and my friend from White Cross Pharmacy, she was in there also. So I went to visit her, mm-hmm. and she asked me if I would pray for her. Tell her I wasn't going to tell her that Franklin Daily Planner was not the Bible.
Oh, that's funny.
I prayed for her. Yeah. And then I went over to my mom's house. My dad and my mom, they lived in Las Vegas, like I said, 1965. And they lived on 14th Street and Bonanza, and if you know the area I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. And I went and told her about that praying. And while I was there, Bruce called and said, Ron, my wife's out of a coma.
Hallelujah.
48 hours later, she went to Rancho Rehab, and I went and visited her there. So when I told Mom that, and my mother said, so what? I said, what do you mean, so what? And she said, you know that there's over 100 of us that do that every week, that we go to the hospitals praying for people?
Wow.
My mom invited me to UMC Hospital, Hope Chaplains, hospital chaplains offering prayer and encouragement. And man, that's how God started me.
And so you continued to do that, make the hospital visitations?
For 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a chaplain. And went for 5 years. I was at Cheyenne Community Care Center. That's where we're at today. That's why I said it was so interesting that we got to go see Arturo today.
Yes.
What a man that is that stands for
we went
God.
to see Arturo Martinez, who was the victim of a tragedy. His wife and daughter were killed by a home intruder in a home invasion. And he's got a gym up at Cheyenne in the 15 on Civic Center Drive. And we went to visit and brought a famous fighter with us, didn't we?
Yes,
And
James Quick Tillis.
Yeah.
Cowboy Tillis.
There you go.
They almost got in a fight. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's right. And they're watching here.
Yes, they are.
And his
They're
lovely
here
wife
today.
Vanessa, and we had a good time today.
Oh, we did.
enjoyed it today.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Ever since that God brought us together, we've just really had a time witnessing for the Lord, haven't we?
We have. Yeah, we have. Yeah. I think my first memory of us being together was there was a national day of prayer, and that continued on a monthly basis. And Ben Litvinoff, a.k.a. Ben Hare, who's an entertainer and a singer, great singer.
Oh, yes.
And a hairdresser as well, used to do this once a month. first in one of the casinos, and then in a library for a while. And you were there. You would bring the colors in, wearing your Marine veteran uniform, and we would pray. We'd say the pledge, and then pray. And that was always a great time. I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was really, you brought that point up about you have something inside you that until I started with praying with people,
right.
You don't know how God is going to use that. In the hospital chaplain, what they always taught you is, that you pray before you go anywhere. You always pray that the Lord would open the door. Mm-hmm. And that's how I really got to know Ben, was through his mother, because his mom would come out and sing at the
also
Cheyenne Community
voice.
Care Center. Incredible voice.
Yeah, the whole family. Yeah.
And so God just kept opening the doors and opening the doors and opening the doors. And I got a call from the Henderson Convalescent Hospital to go out there, from the Hope Chaplains. And so I was there for 5 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you were there on a regular basis?
Every Sunday I would do the service there.
Wow. Yeah. Now, when did you decide you wanted to, I know you continued your education in seminary. When did you decide that was a good idea?
Well, I didn't decide that until the door opened.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd always wanted to, and I'm always, the battlefield always prepares you, for the time of study, because then you understand about dedicating yourself.
Right.
And so the door opened at the Silver State Bible College, which is part of the Golden Gate Baptist Theological Seminary.
Right, and the Southern Nevada Baptist Convention runs it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, Pastor Danny Daniels, who is another Marine, and many that watch this show, they see him all the time.
Right.
Another a Marine.
Yes. And a pastor as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
We get along so well together. We have a lot of the same background.
Sure.
Except that God just used him mightily from a younger age. He waited for me. God did.
Yeah. Let's touch on that for a second. Callings come at different times in people's lives. Yeah. It came to you as far as being a pastor later in life. Tell me why you think that transpired, and what exactly do you think the Lord had in mind when He was bringing you along at the time He brought you along?
What I found out is that when God has plans for us, there's a multitude of people that God is working with at the same time.
Sure.
And so as you step up and step out in faith, God will open that door. And that's how I met my ordaining pastor, was Pastor Paul LeMay of Gospel Ministry Baptist Church on Charleston and Valley View.
Okay, sure.
And he was the president that year of the hospital chaplains, and I was the secretary treasurer.
Okay.
And so they voted him in, and it was a 2-year duty. So it was just that him and I, we just clicked incredible.
Wow.
And so he invited me to his church, and we started working together. And I was licensed in 2000 and ordained in 2002. And then it was just such a wonderful ministry.
Now, you were here in Las Vegas at that time. When did you decide to go to Pahrump then? And
it wasn't that I decided to. When various things happen in your lives, and God just my daughter had always said, Dad, you need to come out and visit with us, and and see what God wants you to do.
Right.
And so you come to a point in your life when you decide, I just got to see what else I can do. And so my daughter invited me to go to Jonesville, Virginia.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when you did that.
Yeah. And so there was a small Baptist church that was out there. And I got to go, and I got to, they asked me to do a service, and I got to pray with them. And then also, I'm a harmonica player, and I love playing a harmonica.
You can play harmonicas, and you've got so many of them. And that bass harmonica of yours is hilarious. That thing is that big.
So that's not that big.
Okay, it's that big.
Yeah, I know.
But it's great fun to watch you play.
Yeah. But that's another ministry, is that you use the gift that God gave you.
Sure.
And so and that's one of the things that when I had to go into the hospital rooms and I'd ask people, what's your favorite hymn? Do you have a special hymn? And they'd say, well, Amazing Grace, or How Great Thou Art,
right, yeah.
Or Bringing in the Sheaves.
Right.
And so I said, well, it's okay if I play for you. And that music opens the door.
Doesn't
know
it?
that.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
It sure does. Yeah.
So when I was there, my daughter invited me. She said, well, Dad, you like music and everything like that. So we went up to this church, and they had different ukulele players,
right.
guitar players, and June Carter Cash's cousin went to that church.
Is that right?
So, man, we just, it was incredible.
That's great.
In fact, I went to Carter Folk, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I got to meet June Carter's aunt right before she passed away.
Wow.
And I still have her video.
Is that
when
right?
she walked out on stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you decided Virginia was not for you?
Well, no, God decided that.
Okay.
Because I was in the transition of, I sold my house, and I thought that's where God wanted me to go. The things that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'll do that. And but I went to my daughters in Houston, Texas, and Virginia and Texas have about the same humidity. I spent 2 weeks there, and my body hurt so bad.
Wow.
I just said, there's no way I could live in there.
My daughter saying that, yeah.
I know. My daughter had 5 acres, a beautiful ranch. I was 1.5 miles from the church, and so I thought that's what God wanted me to do, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So my brother said, why don't you just come on up to Pahrump? And
a little drier.
Yeah.
And the rest is history in the making.
Yeah. Well, Pastor Lalo Padilla, who had Bautista, church there in Pahrump.
Right.
He was one of my ordaining pastors.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was there, I went over and seen him, and it was like God put in the right place at the right time for the right thing, because less than a year later, he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And so it just worked out where God
wanted you there to step in at that
yeah.
point.
And before, and I don't speak any Spanish, and so I just love the people.
Right.
And we'd have a translator, and I had 28 Spanish people coming to the church when he had passed away.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then, so it worked out where God opened the door, and we were able to buy the property. And so we started, and I was living in a little home, in a mobile home at Comstock Park, and we started with 6 people.
Wow!
And Sunday we broke 100.
Wow! Congratulations. Yeah. We want to hear more about that. And we're going to talk about what's going on in Pahrump, Nevada today, and about the church, and we're going to talk a little bit about this amazing Bible that's in front of us. But first, we need to take a brief break. We'll be back with more on Las Vegas Tonight right after this.
Drawn by the lights, glamour, and opportunities in Sin City, they come from all over the world, searching for their chance to be a pretty woman, a success, or maybe just to have a better life. Be somebody. What happened after they got here is literally changing the world. From the story of Tommy Scott, a former gang enforcer turned Christian evangelist, to the Hookers for Jesus Outreach Ministry, to the heart-wrenching story of Arturo Martinez and his heroic act of forgiving the man who assaulted and murdered his wife and 10-year-old daughter. Las Vegas Tonight presents an extraordinary depiction of Las Vegas as a city of transformation, from Sin City to Vegas Saints. Las Vegas Tonight, from Sin City to Vegas Saints, a collection of true stories of transformation, people whose lives were transformed, and people who are now transforming the world.
Hi, this is your host, Dale Davidson, and you're watching Las Vegas Tonight. We're very pleased to have with us today Pastor Ron Fairbairn, who is the senior pastor of Central Valley Baptist Church of Pahrump, Nevada. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Again.
Again. I
This
know.
is episode number 2.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about Pastor Ron's childhood in Nebraska and then in Las Vegas. His experiences in Vietnam resulted in a medal. And then how he got into pastoring out in Pahrump. We're going to pick up right there and talk a little bit about Pahrump of today, its challenges and its opportunities. Pastor, tell us a little bit about your church of today, the Central Valley Baptist Church, when it was founded and how you've grown and where you're at with it.
Yes, sir. Well, I think one of the things that is so relevant for churches today is that before, the community would build a bridge to the church because all the church had to do was build itself, put it on the corner, and people would come.
Right.
That's not the way it is today.
Right.
The church has to be a bridge to the community. And that's one of the visions that the Lord put on my heart, being a chaplain and visiting with so many different people from so many walks of life, that's what we started with, and we're still continuing that today.
So really, outreach is critically important. What kind of things do you do at Central Valley Baptist to make yourself known?
Well, one of the things is visiting at the hospitals. Once we started doing that, then God opened the doors for us to work with other ministries. And one of the things that we work with in our community is called the Nye Communities Coalition. They're actually an education oriented to, if people need to get their diplomas, they help them. If they need to get a job, they'll dress them for success. If they need, whatever it is that they need, they get them there. They help them with their driver's license. They help them get from their GED to their high school. They'll help them with workforce connections is part of their organization.
Oh, okay.
And so 4 years ago, one of the ladies that was working with that organization, that they had what they called the Holiday Task Force. 3 times a year, the Holiday Task Force, which is part of the Nye Communities Coalition, we have 3 dinners a year: Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Christmas, we served over 680 people.
Wow.
180 meals were taken to the houses where people could not get out.
Wow.
And so from that time on, started doing that. It has grown. Nye County is the 3rd largest county in the United States of America.
In area.
Area.
Right, yeah.
And,
it's a huge county.
It is. But it's also, right now, somewhere between 5th and 6th most depressed county in the United States also.
Wow.
When we had this downturn.
Right.
It just, there's the jobs, we don't have the job facilities to bring people in or to sustain. So one of the organizations that was started working with Nye Communities Coalition was our community outreach. And so from the community outreach, we were able to work with the 3 Squares here in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And we have a food distribution almost every day of the week somewhere in Pahrump now.
Wow.
And then also in that, we started an organization with the community outreach, and there was 3 things that we needed to do. And one was we have a homeless population out there, and we also have where people that do have jobs, they do not make enough money to sustain their bills.
Working poor.
Yes, the working poor.
Right.
And then the third thing was system change, is that we're working on change in our community between our county commissioners, the town board, and the people that we have there. Pahrump now has somewhere between 37 to 37,500 people.
Wow, I didn't realize it had gotten that big.
Yeah. And,
Let's talk about the future in Pahrump. I hesitate to say things have turned around because I don't know that they have. But what's your gut feeling economically and as far as that population is concerned out in Nye County?
Well, in Pahrump, what we have going on right now is in our community outreach, we were able to start an organization called the CCIC. And It's a crisis intervention committee.
Oh,
Critical
I see.
crisis intervention committee.
Okay.
And what we've started is that, working with, we had 35 people that came into the community outreach. And you know how it is when you get a bunch of people together. Well, our biggest problem is food. Our biggest problem is no place for the people to go. But we have Las Vegas that's 60 miles away, and they have the things that we can do. So
Right.
we're in between water from the rock and Clark County, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So what we started to do is working with No to Abuse, which is one of the Nevada Resource nonprofit, the Community Crisis Intervention Committee, that we were able to raise money, and we were able to give it to the money to No to Abuse, which is recommended through our committee, which is overseen by Nye Communities Coalition.
Right. Okay.
We had to come up with an MOU, okay, and it's a memorandum of understanding.
Oh, okay.
You and I would call it an SOP, standard operating procedure.
That's right.
Right. And so we were able to, they said, okay, you can't case manage it because you might not be good in one area,
Right.
and you are in another area.
Sure.
So we want you to do it, but you're not going to be able to do it, so you need to find a case manager.
Okay.
And No to Abuse was able to step in
Oh, okay.
and do that. We had 2 sales that we raised. We raised almost $3,000, gave it to them direct, and they're handling. People need help with the rent, they get $100. They need help with their utilities, we give them $50. They need gas. We have $30 and $40 vouchers that we give them. Every day we have people now that are stepping up, donating money,
Right.
and helping people with food. And so that's one of the great things that has happened.
Yeah, I understand too that maybe it was this organization, but out in Pahrump they've come to an understanding with the utilities, where they're giving them, they're allowing people to pay on time, or how does that work?
That is very interesting. One of the county commissioners, Butch Boraski, and we went to the power company in Pahrump, and we said, look, their requirement was, and you understand business,
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
If the people, they have to come up with a deposit to put down.
Right.
So we
Make
met
sure
with
they
them.
get paid for the work they do. Yeah.
We met with them 3 times and said, "Isn't there something that we can do?" Because what they did is they took two of the highest bills within the year, and they said, "This is a deposit you got to have."
And that could be serious money.
Well, sure, who's got
Right.
that? Unless you come from somewhere else with a good letter of credit.
Right.
So that was just prayer answered. Prayer answered.
Right.
And so they came and they said, look, one of the ladies from another community came in and said, we do this up in our other community, and it's called pay as you go.
Right.
So for $120, people are now able to get their electric turned on. They get a $50 fee. It's $10 to join the association because we all get money back.
Right.
And they get a $50 credit. And they can go online and they can watch every day what their power is.
Oh, okay.
So
they know
now
where they stand. Yeah.
Instead of $400 and $500 deposit and
Right.
turn on, and also they have, and I get excited about it because it's had so many people that now have had $400 and $500 in their deposit.
Right.
Because of hard times. They've been able to take that money, pay the $50,
Right.
put the other money in on their account, Dale, and keep their electric on.
That's great.
Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
A potential audience of more than 50 million people is reached every week by Las Vegas Tonight. To keep the important message of Christ's love on the air, we need your prayers and financial blessings. Please send your tax-deductible gift to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. For a donation of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Dale Davidson's new book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints. You'll love these inspiring stories of Las Vegas Christians who are changing the world. or donate to the ministry, or order Dale's book by going to vegassaints.org. That's vegassaints.org. Or call us today at 702-480-3989. That's 480-3989. God bless you.
Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
And
that's the kind of forward-looking approach that people need. Do you see any sign of improvement from an unemployment standpoint?
You know, just put it this way a little bit. Businesses are starting to come in, okay?
Right.
But mobile homes, you cannot get a new mobile home financed.
Oh, that's part of the big problem, isn't it?
Yes,
Banking.
it is.
Banking, yeah.
Yeah, and unless you've got cash to go in there and buy a home, you can't get the financing for it. There's one bank that's financing new mobile homes. Do you know how much that
Rate's probably pretty high.
it? Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And
so you're encouraged. You're a very positive guy. That's one of the reasons I love you. You know, whenever I call you and ask you how things are going, you say I'm blessed, and you make you make people around you feel blessed. So I'm honored to know you, and I'm really glad that things are going well for you at the church.
They are. We're helping. You know, I mean, it's a two-way street, and it really is. Until your church becomes an outreach to the community,
right?
You know, I don't believe we're doing what the Lord. Jesus went out. He went out and walked around the neighborhood, didn't he?
He sure did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he sure did. He went where the people are.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me in between show tapings that you're doing some baptisms. Tell us the story about the baptismal fount and how you made all that happen.
Oh, you know, that was a God thing.
Yeah, sure.
Our, you know, one of the things that you just be faithful. That's all that God says. He said, you know, well, you don't have to be faithful. He said, I'm already faithful. He said, all you're doing is following in my footsteps.
Right.
And so my pastor, Paul LeMay, and he you know, no matter what he went through, he was always faithful to God first, and first fruits of everything he got. And I tell you what, he taught me that. And because of that, the first that God gives me, I give back to him. And you know.
So you found yourself with a baptismal font.
That
that you didn't have to spend a lot of money on.
No, I had actually when I had sold a house, I was able to get it for my other church.
Okay.
And then when they had moved locations, they couldn't put it in there, and because the pastor moved it into his house.
Oh, okay.
And then
they gave it back to you. I see.
It back.
Okay.
And we had 35 baptisms last year.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's wonderful.
So, well, praise God.
Oh, praise God. That's right. Speaking of praising God, let's talk about this amazing thing that we have here. And I'll turn to our director, William, and tell me whether, are we doing a good job here putting that on the center camera? This is a really, really old Bible. I can tell by looking at it. And it has some fantastic illustrations. It's in German. Pastor Ron, tell us about this old Bible.
It's it was printed in 1765.
That's amazing. Before America was born.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And we're so blessed to be able to have this. My brother had bought a home. That, well, you know, on probate it takes a year.
Yeah, sure.
And if nothing, in the home that he bought,
isn't that beautiful?
my brother was one of my brothers was cleaning it out and found this inside.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, and he brought it to me.
Wow.
When I come to visit my mother, he'd come into the house 3 times, and I thought it was funny. Why are you here? And he said, oh, I found something. And the 3rd time he said, oh, I better show you what it was.
Oh,
and he brought this in, and so.
And look at this fine work here. This is obviously from a wood block, because that's how they printed in those days. And somebody did an incredible amount of detail work. And then you can see how they had used the awl here to etch all this out. It's just beautiful work.
The first printing was in 1532
of this Bible, and
the original.
The original. That's what I mean. Yeah. And this was Martin Luther King, wasn't it?
Well,
Martin Luther. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Martin Luther. It says Martin Luther Steele.
I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Martin Luther Steele.
so So, I don't know
who he was.
All that, that all that has to do with
right.
it. But all I know is that we're getting ready to have it enclosed.
Are you?
Yeah. And so many people, they've put their DNA on it, and I talk about it. I say, you know what? God was working in, and He's working today, and He's working through you.
Right.
And,
it's an amazing thing. And then when we consider the tradition, which obviously goes back 2,000 years to Christ and His birth, but the many years and the many lives and the many martyrs and all that have caused us to reach this point, and that is where America needs to be. Needs to remember what people gave up in order to bring Christ to the masses. And what's your feeling about the future?
You're asking a preacher now.
Yeah.
You know what? If you don't stand up for what you know is right, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
And I believe that we need to go back to the foundation of what this country was, how it stood up, why they came here, okay, and what we need to do. We need to stand up for the truth. Mm-hmm. All right. The Bible says the truth will set you free. Mm-hmm. And we do. We need to get back and say, you know what? We know what's right, and we know what's wrong. When I read the one of the books that changed my life, and it was by Henry Blackaby.
Sure.
And he had a little part in there, and the mayor of Dallas had put in all his office, and he put in all of his business offices, he said, you have what you tolerate. And I believe that we've become a tolerant nation, and we don't need to be. Mm-hmm. We need to stand up for what the Bible tells us is right. Mm-hmm. And that's how I say we need to stand up on the principles. How are our youth to we grew up by example, and that's how our youth are they watch you, they emulate you very closely. Mm-hmm. And we need to get back where the families take care of their families, God, families, and even in the Marine Corps, it's God first, mm-hmm. and country and your family. Mm-hmm. So we need to get back to that. The children, we have so many of our children that a youth group that we started.
I want to know more about that, because you're living the example when you talk about how youth is indeed the future of the church and the future of our country. Yep. Tell us what you're doing with the youth and Prompt.
Well, we started a youth night, and we started the first time we had 8 children, and now every Thursday we just opened it up three times a month. We have Bible study, and the whole concept in what we do is how to live biblically in today's world. Okay. Let me tell you, these young people want to know. And so
they're looking for structure, they're looking for answers, aren't they?
Yeah. And I want people from our community that have been successful, that have been, the reason they do is because they stand up for what they know is right. Right. And so we average anywhere from a minimum a dozen to 37 teenagers every week that come there. And once a month we have a pizza and a Bible study. The movie. Right. We have different movies in. Mm-hmm. And one of the movies that you and I were just talking about at lunch today, really changed my heart. Yeah. And so I'm
the
looking
ultimate
forward,
gift. Right.
The ultimate gift. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that coming out, and we show it periodically to our youth, and for them to understand. And then we have such great people. God just keeps bringing wonderful people into our community and to come and speak. And like James Quick-Tillis and his wife Vanessa,
who are here with us.
Yeah,
as our audience today. Yeah.
And he was such a witness to the youth, and that's what it takes. It takes us being a witness. Remember when you were growing up that you go onto the playground, and the children are looking for somebody to say, "Look at me."
Sure.
And you know what? We don't have that today.
Yeah.
And so until we get back to the family structure, and until men become the head of their household, and what do I mean? Because they let Christ be the head first.
Let's talk about a man's responsibility, because that's missing so much in families now, fractured families, and and guys are just walking away from their responsibility.
Right.
What are you teaching these kids? The males. What are you teaching them?
Well, at first we used to combine them. We'd have the
Girls and boys together.
girls and the boys together.
Yeah.
And then we found out better that it worked if we did our own class with each of them. Because, and we tell them, we know you're going through hard times. We know that you don't have the family structure. We know, but we want you to know first off that you have people that care.
Mm-hmm.
And we do. If you want to talk, we're here to talk. And we've been there. We've been down that road. Mm-hmm. We know what it's like to come from a family that with abuse, and the alcohol. And we have to think about this. When the man is not able to work, the very first thing that God gave him to do was responsibility to work.
Right.
And without men having the facilities to and the faculties to be able to work,
right,
it's depressing.
Sure.
So first off, we need to get back and where the man is able to work and to take care of his family. Mm-hmm. And once we do that, and I believe that we need to get back to the structure that God gave us to begin with.
Yeah, and so often a man's self-image is based on his work.
Sure it is.
And I think that's one thing that both companies and the government needs to remember, that so much a job is critically important from a self-esteem standpoint. Mm-hmm. And when a guy goes into a depressive state and uses alcohol or drugs or walks out or whatever because he feels he's a failure, we've got to remember there's societal repercussions from economic decisions.
You bet.
And when jobs are sent overseas, for example, because it is cheaper to do it overseas,
right,
or through automation, jobs are eliminated. We need to remember that that's going to have lasting impact on the community.
You bet it does. And that's why the church has to be, the church has to build the bridge to the community. Well, one of the things that we want to be open every single day of the week. We have something going on at the church Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
That's great.
And then the services on Sunday.
That's great.
We're working on a suicide called the Dark Angel, and it's a suicide prevention. It's raising up counselors, accredited counselors, to be able to help people in our community. I've done too many suicide funerals, Dale. And how can they have been prevented? Because there's signs out there. And so we're working on that. We're working on a grandparent support group. Do you know that there are no grandparents' rights in Nevada?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No,
and so,
I did not know that.
In fact, it's going through Carson City right now about grandparents being able to visit their grandchildren, and so many of them are raising them. So we're
there's an epidemic of that going on, and drugs is a big part of it. Grandparents, people our age think they're done, and we both know people that it's
We have a 20-month-old grandson that we're raising. We've been raising him since he's 9 months old.
Yeah.
And
hard.
You know what? He gets on his knees and he prays with us. He's 21 months old. And he prays with us every single night. He won't go to bed till he prays.
Well, God bless you for doing it.
Well, by example.
Yeah, that's what we all need to do. And Pastor Ron, you've been a great example, not only to your flock and friends and admirers here in Southern Nevada, but to our viewers now too. They've gotten a chance to know you, and he's a pretty cool guy.
We're known by who we associate with. Somebody once said to me, and I just thought that was so, we have to remember that the church is not a sanctuary for the saints, it's a hospital for sinners.
That's the truth, isn't it?
And we got to remember that.
Yeah, and he fixes us in every major way, and then while we're there in his hospital, we can wander down the hall to the chapel and worship him, because that's that may be the analogy, huh? Yeah. And then our thanks to you for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Oh yeah, it's always great to see you, Ron. And we wish you great success with Central Valley Baptist Church, and all that you have in store in Pahrump. We'll be on our knees praying for you too.
We need it.
Don't we all?
Yes, sir.
We've been with Pastor Ron Fairbairn, Central Valley Baptist Church of Pahrump, Nevada, and a great man of God. We appreciate you very much coming on the show today. We've got plenty more in store on this channel here. We call ourselves Keen 17. There's some terrific programming coming your way right after this. We hope you'll stick around and stay with us. And most of all, we hope you will walk with Him. God bless you. Bye. Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you're enjoying Las Vegas tonight. The guests we've had on the program are wonderful examples of Christians who take seriously Christ's command to love one another. In addition to the hundreds of television stations across the United States now carrying our show, we have been presented with the outstanding opportunity to bring these inspiring stories to people around the world. An international satellite network in the Russian and Ukrainian languages has asked us to provide them with episodes to be broadcast to millions. To make a gift to support this very special effort, please send your check or money order to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To use your credit or debit card, call 702-480-3989. Thank you, and God bless you.
You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with Dale Davidson. Send your tax-deductible gifts to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. Or call 702-480-3989. Thanks for watching.